Knowledge has to be improved, challenged, and increased constantly, or it vanishes. Blue is the eye that is always looking to the future, the mind that is transfixed with life's riddles, and the hand that crafts spectacular tools of magic and steel. Blue is the question at the tip of the inquisitive tongue. Simply put, blue is the color that sees itself and the world around it as incomplete, something to be shaped and improved upon, a task it obsessively intends to complete. It is the color that aims for perfection and understanding in all things. What is interesting though, is that if blue were to be honest with itself, it would tell you that perfection is an ever-shifting goal, an impossible dream, but one it will devote its life to pursuing. For when something has improved to the state of blue's ideal, it only opens a new door of understanding. And in that understanding, a new perspective is gained. And in that perspective, it sees there is more that can be done. You see, blue has an insatiable habit for learning, tinkering, and iterating, a habit that guides much of its actions. But what does this really look like? How does this mindset come to be? And where will it lead blue? In this video, I will discuss just that, and hopefully, with this knowledge, you'll have a better understanding of one of the fundamental building blocks of the color pie. Alright, now that I've set the stage, I want you to get comfortable and join me in taking a closer look at blue. The eye opens to a new world. It does not yet understand what it sees, but it takes in all of the wonder before it. Blue, when broken down to its simplest form, is a color that gains satisfaction from understanding itself and the world around it. Then, armed with this understanding, it can find its true purpose. Blue takes in every bit of sensory information it can, and forms an image in its mind of what it wants from this life. Once it has found its focus, it then aims to understand everything about that thing, whether that be the magic of time itself, the inner workings of the human brain, the expansion of technology, or the source and application of mana itself. Blue understands that knowledge without action means nothing, and so it is with this mindset that understanding turns toward perfection. Blue will take what it has learned and then ask itself, what more is there, and what more can this be? To this end, blue utilizes magic and tools crafted by its own hand, magic that unlocks further magic, and tools that allow the construction of more complex tools. But understand this, in the mind of blue, magic is just as much of a tool as a hammer, and there is hardly a distinction between the two, making blue quite interesting in that it adapts itself to accomplish what tasks it wishes to solve, and in turn will just as soon become an artificer as it would a wizard. In our own world, a blue person would become an engineer, or a scientist, for isn't science not some form of magic? And doesn't an engineer not craft tools that push humanity further? This, in the end, is the true purpose. Search for the question, build the tools to solve those problems, gain a new understanding from what was solved, and then repeat this for the rest of time. It is an obsessive loop, a need to know, to act, and to bring about change. So, what aim does blue have then? What would it be satisfied with? Or could it ever really find satisfaction? Well, in a lot of ways, I don't really think blue could ever be satisfied, as every step forward allows it to peer further down the path, and in turn, it sees that the path has no end. In a lot of ways, the path is more a circle than a line, and this obsessive nature is rather common with blue. To some, it may seem like a frustrating existence, but to blue, this is what makes life worth living. For really, what would life be if you had nothing to work towards, even if that work is never complete? Now, let's step away from how blue thinks for a second and discuss what sort of utopia or ideal world it would like to see, as I think this helps shed light on the mentality of any color. You see, The utopic world reflects a color's brain in many ways, as it shows us what sort of conditions it would find most productive or satisfactory. So what does this blue utopia look like? Well, blue would like to see a world where learning and discovery were treated with as much conviction as any other human desire, if not more. A world where each person contributed towards a logical conclusion. It would be a world with a sense of progress in every action. There would be no time wasted on trivial things, and each individual would act in a way that contributed to the goal. Of course, this would lack the aspects of humanity that we're used to, and would in many ways devolve into a robotic society. But it would be one that would surpass the constraints put on humanity by our own frivolous desires and emotions. Blue pleads with us to look to a future that is more impressive than the fate we're stumbling towards right now. It says to us, look skyward to the stars and think for a moment, how far would we be if we spend less time making weapons to destroy and more time making tools to create? Think of what could be done if we stopped wasting time and started utilizing it. In this way, blue is the color that often finds itself completely obsessed with whatever it is that holds its focus, sometimes to its own detriment. It can be hard to hold a relationship with a blue person, as they may neglect those around them, if those people do not contribute to its work in some way. It is the color that is just as happy working alone as it is with others, just so long as those people do not impede in its progress. Now, don't get me wrong, blue is aware that it can accomplish more together than alone. In that way, it can often agree with white, as it's just as important to find a perfect version of society as it is to find the perfect version of oneself. To blue, it is the perfection of all things that is the true goal. So in a lot of ways, white and blue walk a similar path. It's just that one uses compassion and the other logic. Now, this is not to say that blue is always aligned with white though. We must also be aware of its other neighbor, black, a color that brings out a different side of blue, as it finds black's sense of amorality a boon, especially when working on things that require a lack of empathy, as it can have little use for ethics when the truth is so close. It also finds a like mind in black in that both colors value a sense of ambition, a goal that shifts ever higher. Blue is always pulled in these two directions at every moment, creating a conflict of logic versus compassion. Blue must always be wary of this, as reason without empathy can often turn a person cold and unfeeling. On the other side of it, you have the colors that bring blue frustration, colors only living for the past or the present, never acting on what the future could be. Colors like green that think constant improvement is a sin to nature, or red, a color so swept up in its need for immediate gratification that it loses sight of what is in front of it. Blue is a mindset for those that wish to understand the world around them, and through that understanding, gain the ability to improve. It is the color that reaches for perfection in all it does, and is never satisfied, as each answer undoubtedly becomes a new question. This cycle aims to continue forever, as there is not a true way to understand everything. But to blue, that's where its purpose lies. It doesn't so much want to know everything as it does want to actively discover what is hidden. It is the act of pushing forward. It is the starting from nothing and adapting and learning at all times. Blue is a color that is focused and driven, a color that is adaptable and efficient. It's easy to imagine what drives blue because I think there's a little bit of blue in all of us. It's the part of our being that looks to the stars and wonders what is up there. It's that feeling you get deep down when you try to imagine the concept of infinity and the impossibility of time before time. All blue asks is that you feed that curiosity, and in doing so, learn what your potential is and how far you can push it. Well, thanks for joining me on that journey through the mind of Blue. I honestly hope this gave you something to think about long after this video ends. It's my goal to bring the colors of magic to as many people as possible, as it's something I just love making videos about. So make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for the next installment in the series, among all the other videos I make as well. And with that, I'll catch you in the multiverse. Bye.